What's up, everybody? Matt and Nick here for another episode of Who Are They? Real Talk. We're chilling in the theater. We do have a special guest for you today. But before we get to that special guest, we just got to welcome back the one and the only Chris Anthony Lopez.
Me first? Yo, what's going on, y'all? You good? Happy Sunday.
Yeah, you sound great. What's that crisp sound?
I might have a new best friend on the side right here rocking with this microphone. But I'm so stoked to be here. It's been a while. I was on last week technically, but
you did show up. Yeah, you
I was on the
made
road.
an appearance. Nathan was very happy to have seen you.
I had to see it once I found out that Nate wanted to see me, and I was driving. I was like somewhere in Missouri or wherever I was at. But I was happy to show up and talk. Was it Powerpuff Girls that CW show they're doing? So. But we're out here rocking, and we got a special guest today on the show. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, our special guest channel before. I'm happy to have him back. He's been someone I can go to like the last 6 or so months, just being black in this space and him being successful. He's a working actor. He's the swaggiest of all blurs. He is the manager of the Team Swag in the movie Trivia Schmodown. And I guess he claimed me as his internet little brother. I'm going to claim him as my internet big brother, and that's Winston A. Marshall.
Huh? What happened? What the fuck am I?
That is a great question. Where are you, bro? What's up, Buck in the chat? What's up, Winston? You good, bro?
What's good? I'm good, Chris. Thank you to all three of you gentlemen for having me on. Shit, I'm just going to be eating lunch and drinking a beer while we're doing this, by the way, because
go right ahead.
Hey, I've been busy. I apologize.
Hey, at least you don't have to talk about Twilight this time.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, fuck you for that forever.
That is true.
Man, I had fun. I don't know about you guys. I thought it was a good time.
I had a good time. I
got a text from Winston all the night before. What the fuck are you having me watch?
It was just so, why are we doing this? Like, I don't like, but why?
Was it overdramatic? Yes. Was it worth it? Yeah.
No. You better have raised a lot. I didn't even ask if I could swear, but I guess I'm doing it. You better have raised a lot of money for charity, because I'll never forgive y'all motherfuckers
for our first charity watch along. We raised around $700.
Okay, I respect it.
See? Worth it. Totally worth it. See, a boy Taylor in the chat got some BuzzFeed quizzes for you.
Don't do that.
Yeah, go ahead and DM him. Go ahead and DM him, Taylor. You know where to find him.
You know where to find them. But no, like I said, Winston, you've been someone who's there for me, and when we were talking about we want to go back to what we were doing, and that's highlighting people who are trying to just make it in the industry, I instantly thought of you, because I know how much work you put in. It's just one of those things, and you're literally probably one of the hardest working people I know. So
I appreciate that as I shove food into my mouth. But it's I won't lie, man. To pull this off is a struggle. It is some hardcore work to make this work. And I feel very fortunate that I have I've done pretty decent for myself. There's always still more to do, and that's kind of what today was. Like, people always joke about the lights whenever I would still have them up during a Schmodown match. They're like, why are all the lights pointed at your bed? Like, you can finally see the thing. What I normally do will take down this curtain. So any actor that's working right now has some version of this, because the idea of the traditional audition and going into a place is not a thing anymore. You have to have a setup to self-tape in your own home. And that's essentially what it is. Every actor has some version of lights. Every actor has some version of a backdrop or a green screen or something. I have a green sheet too, so if I need to green screen shit out. And I just shoot auditions right here in my tiny ass little studio apartment, man. So knowing that I literally finished about 15 minutes before the show started, I was like, all right, well, it's just going to stay up. I ain't got enough time to take all this. If I take the curtain down, then it looks like I'm shooting porn again. Like, let's just not do that. So
you're talking about that first live event where, like, Winston, what you been shooting?
Pretty much.
I would say something else, but that'd be stealing from your show.
This is a judgment-free zone. Winston, you can do whatever you want. Like, I mean, I don't care. Like, it ain't gonna change the way I look at you. But like, I mean, I don't want to start off with the obvious, but like the whole COVID pandemic really changed how a lot of things were done. Not even just like auditions or how movies are made and stuff like that. But for you, as someone who like has their foot in the door, trying to really break out into this business, like when you found out, like A, that COVID was a thing, and B, that was going to start affecting your daily life or your daily work life. Like, how was that for you? Shit, I mean, last March, like around this time.
Yeah, it was stressful, man. There was like a number of things that happened simultaneously. I think the first thing, more importantly, every actor as well, until you've hit like a series regular, a hosting job, whatever other stuff. It's a lot of little gigs here and there, which means you still have to hold down a day job. And that was the thing for me. A lot of that has to do with flexibility. Some people get lucky and they find a job that they can just work the 1 day job, and then that's all they need to survive out here or in New York or in Atlanta or whatever other major acting city. That wasn't necessarily the case for me, because a lot of these jobs were flexible. They are easy to kind of shift around, but they're not providing enough money. So I was actually working 5 jobs at once. You can include the SCN schmodown of it all in there, but I was working 5 jobs at once. And then in one fell swoop, boom, everything gone. Like I was working as like a promoter / show, like running a show at the House of Blues, where I was doing that probably somewhere around 5 to 8 shows a month, depending on, how many artists we booked, how many days the House of Blues gave us as a group. I was working at Costco, not for the company, for another company. It's like, how you'll sometimes see like road shows will come in and they'll be like, for those that have been to Costco, where it's like, hey,
I work for Costco, so you speak in my language.
So then the road shows would come in, right? So it would be like I was working for a company called Apartment 2B, and it was like, so it was selling like custom couches and stuff. So most of it was just kind of standing around, but it like, you'd be like, oh yeah, check it out. You can get it in these fabrics, you can get it in these sizes, these whatever. So I was doing that. Like I mentioned, the schmodown and SEN, because for those that don't remember, that are fans of that, SEN for a while, it stopped for a couple of days, and then it became just Brett and Christian for like a good month, 2 months, until we could figure out how to make that happen via Zoom with everybody. And at this point now, I can't remember the other 2 jobs. There were 2 others that I was working at the same time, and my brain's just slipping at this point. But then the other thing that was happening, I was up for potentially hosting a very major show for a network. And I was supposed to have a conversation with them the week after South by Southwest. Well, South by Southwest obviously gets canceled because of COVID. So the exec that we were supposed to meet with goes, do you want to do this? Like, I was supposed to leave for Austin tomorrow. Do you want to just do it tomorrow now that we're not? I was like, yes, I would love to. Let's do that. And then tomorrow comes and we don't really hear anything. So then we hit him up the day after and like, look, we're so sorry. Things have just been so chaotic with this. Like, we're kind of figuring out how we're going to shut everything down and do this from home. So let's just wait a little bit until this works out. And then I just never heard back from them. I eventually did hear, and I did some little guest stuff for the said network, but like for months it was radio silence, because they just, obviously the world turned on its side. And so nothing was more terrifying than having that happen in the middle of, I had been living with my roommate from college. He wasn't a roommate in college, but he's a buddy from college. And I've been living with him post-college for a decade. And we had made the decision. It was finally time to go our separate ways. I was going to get my own place. He was probably going to do the same thing. And that was mainly because things with my girlfriend were getting serious. We both agreed I needed to live alone once. You don't get engaged and then go, well, I've never lived alone, so bye, bitch. And then you go off and live by yourself. So we're like, let's do this now. So I have all these sources of income that have now completely disappeared. And I'm trying to find a place in a city that's shutting down. And I just got very lucky that this apartment, this was one of the places that I was looking at. They're the only one that still talked to me. Like the other 3 places I was applying to were all like, we're not renting out to anybody. We don't know what's going on with this pandemic. We're out. And then this place was run by this sweet old lady who unfortunately died like 6 weeks after I moved in.
wow.
So I think about all the time that it was like her last. She did other stuff, of course, but like her cancer really picked up when COVID hit and shit. That it was like one of the last really sweet things that like she did is like she gave me a place to live. You know what I'm saying? Like, but even then I was terrified. I had a little money in the bank to last like a month or two, but I had to figure out how I was going to do this. And so I found myself just Instacarting. And then on top of that, knowing how much money they were taking and also knowing, that people were corrupting the system and made an algorithm to steal jobs from people. Like they would pick up jobs before you could even see them. I also started my own kind of independent thing where I just hit up like friends and associates of friends where I was like, look, I'm already out here in these streets. Let me go grocery shopping for you. This is what I charge for, which is going to be a tiny bit more than what Instacart is for depending on how far away you are from me, because Instacart is within the area that you're in.
Right.
I was offering this up to friends across the city. So I was like, look, if I got to drive 20 miles to get to you, I'm going to charge you a little bit more than the person that lives down the street from me. But know that this isn't going to some company that doesn't give a fuck. It's just going to a friend that you know that I'll call you and FaceTime you and make sure, is that the exact banana you want? Or like you want something else? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it worked out. It worked out for a while enough that I was able to, between that and streaming, I was able to cut down some of my debt that I had. I was able to really make sure that I was paying for stuff here. I was stressed all the time because I was out there all the time, but that's always kind of been me. I sometimes will be a little bit of a slacker or procrastinate, but when it's needed of me to step up to the challenge, I always do it. That's just in my DNA, not to fail. You know, if I do fail, it's a temporary setback and I come back, you know. So that was the long-winded version to your answer. To your question. Sorry about that.
You're fine, dude. That's why we're here. We're trying to get to know you and just the hustle you put into everything. Zach Burkett, Ricky says, respect the hustle, dude.
I appreciate it. I'm pissed off that Roxy got to you before I could, man. But it happened. It happens. Now I just got to whoop your ass, but I would have loved to.
Did you really need 3 A-tier Star Wars players?
Why not? I mean, one of them is about to become champion, and then I'm going to need a second Star Wars player for the 16-person tournament. So, you know,
Shame.
it happens. But, you know, Zach got swooped up quick, as I expected. Zach is a killer, man. He's an absolute killer.
Jeff Alterman says a friend of mine got engaged and is only now moving in with his fiance 3 years later and 2 months before his wedding. Jimmy Nails, hey Winston, what's good?
What up, Jimmy? Good to see you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
And got engaged, and is only now moving in 3 years later, 2 months before. Wow, that's crazy.
Talk about respect, Lord. That's that's a risk.
You snooze, you lose.
All right, motherfucker. Now I'm gonna have to carry you. That's fine. That's fine.
I know Nick's been chomping at the bit to ask you some questions.
Well,
I was
going to say, Winston, hello. I am like the only regular person on this channel that you've never met before, but I'm a big fan.
Appreciate it, brother.
We just appreciate having you here and being able to talk and such. So a lot of the people that this video will reach are going to be from the Cleveland area. Matt and I both are into the Cleveland film community and such. So a lot of different actors and stuff. We hope this obviously reaches. What has been the experience of doing virtual auditions as opposed to a lot more in-person auditions this time?
That's a great question. To answer it on a shorter tip, and I can expand if you want, there are there's only one excuse, and there's really no excuses at this point. There's zero. There's no reason that you can't give the absolute best performance you have, because since most of it is not Zoom, there's a few Zoom auditions that happen that mainly only happens with like callbacks or things like that. But most of it is self-tapes, which means there's no reason you cannot give the absolute best performance that you have, because you can, like what happened with this, to be honest with you, of the 3 scenes, one of them is pretty long. And there's a monologue that I was doing that I was flipping 2 of the last sentences. And And so Kristen, my girlfriend, was helping me with it, and she just would be like, like she's a Harvard girl. She's like, fucking get it right. Like I was like, I'm trying, fucking trying. But there's no excuse to give your absolute best performance because, again, you can control the narrative here. This isn't like you go in, you get your 1 or 2 shots to get it done, and then you got to be out. You can do it as many times as you want. And typically they're giving you upwards of 72 to 96. That's right. Another 24 from 72 is 96. That sounds right.
Yeah.
70. You're getting 72 to 96 hours to submit. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think what it's doing more than anything is it's allowing the cream of the crop to rise to the top even more so. Because there's something that could be said about going in. It's an art form to go in, do an audition, to not lose your cool. There are techniques that you do about points you're hitting, who you talk to, how you talk to them, all that kind of stuff. That is just so big. So I think that this levels out the playing field a little bit. I was doing fine beforehand. I had plenty of in-person auditions, but the one thing that I will say that I don't like, y'all have met me at this point. Most of y'all know me on the Schmodown or SCN. You know, I could charm a crook into giving up a life of crime. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like I could convince like a skunk to take a bath. Like that's like where my kind of bread and butter is at. And I'll even say with I was up for a series lead for another show. The last stage, the network testing stage with the executives, they decided just because scheduling was just so heinous that they were going to cut that part and they were just going to go based off of my last audition. Now, I felt great about the last tape I put forward, but I also know that prior to them hitting record, like I love telling this story. Like you're in a Zoom and you're in a waiting room, just like waiting for them to bring you in. And it had been upwards of like 20 minutes. And I just did the nigga thing that all niggas do. You like, I'm getting ashy, and I started putting on lotion. And all of a sudden, I hear like, "Hello, Winston." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like you caught me mid cocoa butter. Like you got to warn her, brother. I didn't get no like you're next or nothing. And they all started laughing, and the director was a white dude. He's like, "I know about that." Like, yeah. One of my best friends, he be using cocoa butter all the time. I was like, "So you clearly work with black people. I appreciate that. Like you see, you're gonna be a good person to work." And like I had him like dying before I even did a line. And so that was the one thing that like I got this gut feeling without any reason. Like people ask like, why do you think you're not going to get it? I'm like, it's not because of my acting. I know I killed that shit in my last audition, so I'm good on that. I know my ace in the hole is people meeting me. And if all they're going to get is just the scene, now it's just who looks it a little bit more? Who do we like how they said that line a little bit more? You know what I'm saying? Not like that guy did something, you know what I mean? There's something about job interviews that are like that too. They're you know, and that's what it is. It's a job interview. So that sucks. I don't like not being able to be in a room and charm people. But I've still met success. Like I booked Superstore. Like the fact that I got to that stage anyway, network testing means that I'm still doing my job. Oh shit, you had the photo ready. So for those that don't know, that's Colton Dunn. That's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine. I actually met him playing dodgeball and was just a fan of Superstore. And so he had no idea I had auditioned. And I hit him up as I was in my trailer being like, yo, I don't know if you're in this episode or working today, but I'm on the show. He's like, oh, shit, bitch, I hate it. You'll see, but I'll come say what's up. And then that photo happened. And it was fun, man. It was super cool.
Yeah, no, I watched the story. Yo, it's funny. You know,
Matt,
already?
Matt.
Am I back?
Baby?
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah.
You're back. Oh God, you clearly have been talking to Jay. You got that Jay internet now, though.
Bro, my internet
You're rocking
decided to like
480p,
take
brother.
it decided to just take a dump right now. I'm like, oh, this is great.
It's always when we're recording a show.
Unless the show spin from the reel, it's always
Right.
recording a show.
Well, tell your internet this is Spin from the Reel. We've already got Winston on. So.
Right. It feels like something real, ain't it? But you mentioned that Superstore gig, dude. Like, was that the biggest thing you've done?
I would argue yes. I would argue yes and no. Yes, in the fact that it's network TV. But for those that are unfamiliar with the terminology, you have series regulars, which are when you watch a show like Superstore, it's America Ferrera as Amy, it's Ben Feldman as Jonah, it's Colton as Garrett. It's the people that are there every single episode. They are regulars on the series. There's guest stars. Guest stars are people that they're central to the plot. And so they would have a number of different lines or a major storyline that's involved with an episode. So like for those that watch SCN, Bonnie Somerville, who played Mona and was dating Ross, that was a reoccurring guest star, meaning a guest star typically, yes, on Friends. So a guest star typically is just one episode, but a reoccurring guest star is someone that is central to the plot, a major part of the story arc or whatever, and they are there for multiple episodes. And then a co-star is what I did on Superstore. That's where you have maybe no more than like 5 lines, and you're in there and you're maybe in for a joke, or you kind of move some things along, but you're not that central. If like you disappeared, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Or another word for that is a day player. That's another. So that was a co-star. It was just the biggest because it was on network television in prime time. But I wouldn't even say the biggest because I did a guest star on Cine to the Max on Disney Channel. And I played adult Leo. That since the show takes place in both the 90s and present day at the same time, I was playing the adult version of one of the main characters' best friends. Everybody was like, whatever happened to Leo? Whatever happened to Leo? So that was the episode where we got to see what Leo was like as an adult with a son and that whole stuff. So there's still room for me to come back for that potentially. It just depends on if they go back down that storyline or not. But, we'll see.
And I remember I saw that because I think I told Matt, like, yo, I was going through my YouTube recommended one day because I feel like we all ingest YouTube more so than cable nowadays. But your acting reel popped up my recommended, and I'm like, what?
That's a little weird. That's why I get confused about that because I get random emails being like, hey, someone left you a comment, be like, yo, this is fire. Like, I can't wait to see when you get your own show. I'm like, I'm appreciative of all the compliments, but to see all these random people that are just like, yo, man, that was bomb. I'm like, why are you randomly watching my reel right now? But okay.
Right. And that was probably me like, oh, yo, this is some shit.
Put it on unlisted. Put it on unlisted if you don't want people to see. I watched it a couple times.
I don't care. It's out there for a reason. I'm totally fine. I just I
do it, Zach. It's worth it.
You want that? As a person who has a reel on their YouTube channel, you want that random email that's like, "Hey, I liked what you did there." Like, let me know if we could work together. That's a good feeling right there.
No, it's dope. It's dope, and I need to update it again. I mean, being in a new year, I mean, booking, Superstore and a movie that I shot last year, not 2020, 2019. Released like August of last year, but then now it's called One Night in San Diego. It's starring one of the I never really watched Glee, but one of the Asian girls that was in Glee, and I don't remember what the white chick is from, but then Alexandra Daddario is in it as well as like a third. She comes in a smaller role. But yeah, I play a dude working a rental car place, and the whole time the girls are talking about how if they drink real milk in their coffee, they got really bad IBS and diarrhea everywhere. So it's just me making faces at 2 hot girls talking about how they might just like shit all over the car if it's real milk, and I'm like just like still trying to put the order in and be like, that's nasty as hell. Like, so it was a fun little thing, for sure. So I got to add that, and I got to add Superstore to the reel since that happened. I did a Budweiser commercial, but they cut most of the stuff. Like, we were supposed to be the main part of it, and they replaced us with Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. So that's fun. But it happens.
Word. And see, just surprisingly, like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone through IMDb, but I don't know if this is the reason, but this has nothing to do with what you just said, but the Schmodown one says Black Man on it. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but that's definitely
so there is a reason why Christian doesn't let most people pick their name unless it's something that came in and it just works. So like your boy, the Rager, like he'd kind of been going by that already.
By the way, I can say came up with
That-
the name in the Schmodown.
So that worked. So at the time, I just came in just being like, I'm gonna name myself whatever. So we came up with our team name. Like he asked me, because like I brought in Eric. Like Christian was like, all right, so you got a teammate, right? I was like, bitch, I said I wanted to do Inner Geekdom, but okay. And I've seen it, homie.
We gotta
And
share
so-
that acting reel now, all of us. We gotta share it.
But so I came up with World's Finest. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. But then it was like, do you have a nickname? And we were coming in as, you know, the World's Finest. Eric is Superman, me is Batman. So he was Super Zip, and I was, you know, Black Man instead of Batman. But now, and like you look at it with outside of context, you're like, excuse me, what? You have like 4 black people in the Schmodown. So excuse me, what? So
you're just the Black Man. Like that now in hindsight, maybe it doesn't age too well if we're being honest. But now that there's more black people around, but at the same time, like I'm looking at this, I'm like, Black Man. Like, is that like, that can't be real. Like
I feel kind of bad.
Now it's like, no, it's Blackman. Now it's like Batman.
It's Blackman. It's Blackman. That's what it is.
Like Sir Blackman. But no.
I am the Negro that disappears in the night. I am Blackman.
I unplugged my headset from last. My God.
But to go all the way back, so I'm curious because I mean you've been talking about all these acting gigs you've been doing, all the stuff you've been trying to do. But like, where did this come from? Like, when exactly did you realize this is something I would like to do and will work my ass off to do so?
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Honestly, as a kid.
Damn. He ain't wrong. He's not wrong.
I was
you
the
you
black
were
man.
the black competitor.
Right.
Only black competitor.
That's actually not true. My debut match was against the Kingsman. Devon Stewart was in there.
Devon, the CarMax guy.
Wait, what?
No,
he's in a
he
CarMax
has
commercial?
he's got a Buick commercial.
I thought it was CarMax. I've seen him in a
No.
CarMax commercial.
Maybe he got a CarMax commercial too. I saw him on a Buick commercial.
Well, I mean,
Might
good
have
for
been
him.
both. Yeah. As far as just like acting and all and just being in the industry, I've known since I was a kid. I didn't tell my parents because they were supportive, but not really. It was one of those things that they were totally cool with me doing it as kind of like a side hustle thing. If I had maybe really told them it was something I wanted to do, it's possible they may have supported me with it. But like, I joke about this story. I auditioned for like the Barney movie back in the day.
Yeah.
But I was at that age when it happened, and I had just gone to a new school. I went to a private school called St. Mark's. It was you're good, man. It was an all boys school, and so like I didn't want to be. I was just too old to be involved in Barney, but not obviously old enough to be on the show or anything. But like you're right at that age, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. You're like kind of we're over this. We're grown.
You're
right?
moving past Barney.
Yeah. And so while on the audition, knowing it's for Barney, I was like, well, I don't want to be a loser. So I get in there and they're like, all right, young man, can you sing the Barney's I Love You song? And my little ignorant ass was like, I hate you. You hate me. And they're like, well, thank you very much. Have a good day. And just kind of sent me on my way. My mom was so fucking mad at my ass. She was like, nigga, we could have been millionaires off some motherfucking Barney shit. You out here talking about I will beat your ass. Yeah.
Real quick, it's funny you mentioned that because I went to the junket of that with my father when that movie came out.
Oh, bro!
You gotta clip this out.
That is the real Barney. This is from the junket because they had the critics bring their children and whatnot there.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy.
Winston's over here like, I hate you. You hate me.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Right.
Hey, maybe you can get Winston in that. Yeah, you're right, Taylor.
Yeah.
Rebooting Barney, got to see that. What happens when I hate you, I love you, you love me doesn't work no more? Like that's possible.
It's Zack Snyder's Barney, the dinosaur. That's what it is.
Right.
Like, that's what it is.
I still want details as to what this movie is actually going to be. Like,
Is that
I'm
legit?
very curious. Oh yeah,
Is
It's
that real?
legit. Oh, it's real as fuck.
That's real.
Oh,
I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
that
with
man can
movie,
do
but it's definitely
anything.
real.
And he's rebooting Barney, so I gotta know.
right.
Mm-hmm. Two-time Oscar nominee. Yeah, you can pretty much do whatever he wants at this point.
Probably Academy Award winner in the middle of next month.
Right.
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so. I think Lakeith might take it from him.
Oh,
I don't
Because they're in the
think so.
same category.
I don't.
I think Lakeith, they might give it to Lakeith.
I don't think so.
Because think about it. Think about it. This is my reasoning why. A lot of people are saying that they intentionally moved Lakeith to the Academy did to supporting actor because they had all pretty much decided they were going to give it. They were going to give it to Chadwick.
Boseman. Yeah.
So the only way to kind of make sure that they give the just due is to shift him to supporting actor, which obviously you were already going to give a nomination to Daniel, which is where they also like tried to get him in the first place. That might be my thing. But who knows? We'll see what happens. No, maybe he'll split the vote. It's possible. It's very possible. I don't know.
What's up, Corey Cameron?
What's up, Corey?
Funny enough, someone on this screen actually worked on that film.
I did.
Oh, you worked on Judas and the Black Messiah?
It filmed in Cleveland.
One day, yeah.
Oh wow, that's dope, man. What were you doing in it?
PA. I was
Nice, man.
actually, funny enough, I was guarding the doors that they walked. It had to, the day that we were filming it had to have been the scene where they go and infiltrate the bar and kind of, try and recruit different people and kind of show themselves there, because I every single day it was just them walking out of a bar that I was there. So I was like, oh, every single take. I'm like, I was right by where like the stars were. It was cool, but I'm not just like, oh my gosh, you're so cool.
He said Daniel and Lakeith were smoking right in front of him, and he was too afraid to say anything.
Oh, hey, come on.
It happens, man.
I would have been too.
Don't worry about it. If it makes you feel any better. So I had already been warned ahead of time that America Ferrera doesn't necessarily open up to people she doesn't know. Not from like a rude tip, but like if you think about it, I mean, she's been famous for a long time.
Right.
Yes.
Everybody, like she's an attractive woman. She's a successful woman. Everybody's always trying to like hit her up, talk to her, whatever the fuck. She's got a million things on her plate. So I introduced myself to her just to be like, hi, I'm in the scene with you. She's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, blah, 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 right? Was it my 30th or my 29th? Whichever, it was either I think it was my 30th birthday. I did a party bus around Los Angeles. So I got the homies. I even had homies from like back in the day. Like they flew out to LA for this and shit. And we were going to all my favorite like bars throughout the city, right? And the last stop was at this bar in North Hollywood called The Good Night. Now, my favorite bar was this bar called The Other Door, which they have like a bunch of infused spirits. Like they have a habanero vodka shot that a homie of mine took me there the first time I moved to the Valley. And he was like, all right, man, you taking the shot with me? You take the shot with Blood Brothers for life. I was like, fuck, son, habanero vodka. This sounds terrible, which it is. Every time you do it, you get over it, but it's terrible in the moment.
Sounds the worst.
But sounds like Chris's kind of vodka.
Right. But I chose The Good Night because The Good Night as a karaoke bar was super cheap fucking drinks. Like LA, that's not a thing. Most beers are somewhere between $8 and like $14. This place has like beers on tap for like $5. Like
so a normal bar,
like a normal bar for everywhere else, right? So that and there's karaoke. So I'm like, that was gonna be the last stop. Now, mind you, I had pretty much blacked out by this point, or browned out, I guess you could say.
You were in autopilot.
I pretty much was on autopilot. Like someone sent me the cell phone footage of me giving a speech about me getting to 30, and it was very similar to those that saw Blurs After Dark last month. Be like, all right, real talk, like just repeating myself over and over again. We get to this bar. Everybody gets off the bus. I'm the last one off the bus because they got to kind of help me off and shit. And someone goes, hey, man, we can't go in. America Ferrera bought out the bar. I was like, yo, Ugly Betty ruined my 30th birthday. All right, go down the street. We go on the other door. And I had told myself I was going to tell her that story when I met her, and I just completely fucking forgot. I just completely forgot when I saw her because I was just like, I didn't want to be weird, knowing that, like, again, she, like she has a million things on her mind. On top of that, with COVID protocols, everybody has to get there a good hour and a half earlier than you normally would. So my call time, which would have been like 7, was like 5:45. Because when you show up, you drop your stuff off, you're immediately escorted to COVID rapid testing, and then they do a COVID test, and within that hour, you take the test. They test it. If you're negative, great, you move on, you're onto the set. If you don't, you're sent home, and that's it. And especially for a co-star, which again, no more than 5 lines, I was warned ahead of time. If you show up at any point and you test positive, we will just replace you with somebody else, which is understandable. They don't have time for that. Like if America Ferrera gets it, it's like she's the star of the show. we're gonna have to delay shooting or shoot other scenes. But a one-off day player, like they'll replace me in a second, right?
Yeah.
So I was just hell bent on like trying not to step on shit that I was like, okay, let me just whatever. But I really wanted to tell her that she ruined my 30th birthday just to fuck with it. Like, but I forgot. So
that's I mean, just the sentence "Ugly Betty ruined my 30th birthday."
See,
Could have said that girl from Chris. What's that Disney Channel original movie?
Oh, what? There's so
gotta
many.
kick it up. She's
Thank
not gotta
you.
kick it
That's
up.
it.
No, she isn't
that
gotta
it?
kick it up.
Yeah.
That's not even
Yeah,
the most famous for. I feel like what she was in the Yaha's Sisterhood.
Traveling Pants. Yeah.
And she was in the film that essentially Lady Bird was based off of, about the young. It was on HBO. It was the young Latina girl who was also getting in fights with her mom about like, I'm trying to go to college, like whatever, but I need you to stay here and help the family. God, what was the name of that film?
IMDb. I'm
I'm gonna
Hey,
look
what
it
you're
up.
thinking about it, I'll admit that Lakeith told me a joke and I couldn't hear what he said and I didn't laugh at it and I don't think he liked.
Oh, you're done, bro.
Oh yeah,
You're done.
I was like, he's never gonna ever talk to me ever again.
Nick Hell's frozen over. The Cavs are up 17 on the Raptors.
Oh my
Okay.
god, that is so funny.
Oh yeah, he told me a joke and I was like, what? And then he just never wanted to talk to me ever.
She
again.
wasn't gotta kick it up. I can't. Yeah, right. No, but that's okay, man.
But you ain't a shutdown player anymore, right? You just been.
I mean, but it was an HBO movie, so it wasn't.
Oh, no.
It was, and then the Disney Channel movies don't count either. So
know.
neither of those apply,
I'm-
sir. Thanks for trying to make me feel better, but no, it's all good because there have been talks about what happens in the coming seasons. So we'll see.
There you go.
That is so funny. Oh my god.
And Matt, we lost you again, buddy.
Yeah.
And no, Lakeith
Real
will
women,
never,
real women
ever-
have curves.
Is that it? I was gonna
We'll
say
never
that.
come on here now. Yeah. Real women have curves. Yes.
I hope I'm
So you wanted to be an actor since you were a kid, but when did you start actually like going about it? Because you said you auditioned for Barney. Did you was that your first audition?
That I can remember. But the first big thing I booked, I actually worked for Radio Disney from 5th grade until I graduated high school.
Oh wow.
And it was a nationwide like talent search, like thousands of kids or whatever. And it was like me and like, I think they took like 10 of us. And I was doing like commercials and voiceovers and like, they would do these little, did you know, like whatever fact stuff and blah, blah, blah for years. And I was one of the few people, because that's the other thing. You wouldn't have to do a full audition, but you would have to at least do the callback stage every year. And I just kept getting rehired with them, like good to work with, blah blah blah. So that was great. The one thing I regret, there was a big contest called the What's Cool contest, where the kids that they had on employ, it was like a contest over the course of like 2 months, and they would have us do different things, and the winner of it got their own radio show. They would get a show once a week that they would, but and this is, if I could ever say this to anybody young watching this or anything like that, do not be afraid to just be yourself. If there's something you want, just fucking do it. Because that was a situation. I'm a junior in high school. And again, I'm so embarrassed of like, I don't want people to know I work for Radio Disney. It's a kid's whatever the fuck, that I didn't tell a single person at school that I was doing it until the last week, when all of a sudden I suddenly fucking cared. And my mom clowns me about that all the time. She's like, you literally could have had your own radio show, but you were too in your own feelings about yourself. So like, do not be afraid to just be you, because that was a major opportunity, like kind of potentially squandered, or was squandered. Because I ended up losing. I got 3rd out of the 10 kids that were doing it. And the only reason I jumped from like 9th to 3rd by the end of it, we got to the rap portion. Of course, the only black kid, the nigga knows how to rap. And I put these bars together, and all of a sudden these random kids that don't know me were like, oh, he was the best at the rapping. Like, let's do that. I just hate that I didn't tap my network. If I had, like, let alone all the kids, all the people that my mom knows, and she would have blown that out. But I kept telling her, don't do it. Leave me, don't do it. But then I didn't tell all the kids in my high school. I could have very easily won that. But whatever. It happens.
Yeah, I wonder if I ever heard you though, because when I was younger, I would always hoop in the backyard listening to Radio Disney on one of those crappy old radios. So
Yeah, man. Yeah,
probably
man.
did.
Odds are we heard you. Odds
that
are.
is
It's
awesome.
possible. It's very possible. And so then I went to Occidental. I knew I wanted to act then, but I was pre-med at the time, and I eventually got through I got through a few chemistry classes, and I was like, even though I was good at chemistry, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. And I just went all in, and I declared, a theater major and all that stuff. And I remember my mom came to the first play I was in freshman year, and she was like, "Oh, later, Zach. Good to see you, brother."
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks,
Much
Zach.
love, brother.
And I remember my mom came to the play, and we had audience plants. So some of the students were pretending to just come see the show, but like they had interactive moments that people thought was just like improv, like they were just talking to them. Mm-hmm. So one of the homies, they have to go out early and mingle with the audience and pretend like they're a part of them. When the homies came by, I was like, yo, like, I think I met your mom, because like she was crying because she was like, he told me he a theater major. What we gonna do now? His life is over. He ain't gonna have no job. And she was like, no. There's so much he could produce. He could direct. Like he could act. Like he could do any number. That she's like, are you sure? Like, but that wasn't even the fucked up part. The fucked up part is my whole family came, including my little sister who was 13 at the time. And the show starts with one of the actors is playing the director, and all this stuff happens, and there's a lot of shit talk about Texas, where I'm from, right? And so the guy that's playing this director, he goes, "So, my fair audience, like, do you have any questions? Do you believe that we're improvising? Do you have any questions?" And all of a sudden a hand goes up. She goes, "I have a question." Because normally people are too scared to interact. They're just like, haha, they clap and they're quiet. They're like, "I have a question." And I was like, oh, fuck. And everybody else goes, oh, shit, what's happening? And he goes over and he's like, what's your name and what's your question? She goes, "My name is Zoe Marshall. I'm 13 years old and I'm from Dallas, Texas. And I don't appreciate what you're saying about Texas. It's disrespectful. You ain't going to talk about no Texas." And I'm sitting here like, oh, fuck. And is that your sister? Oh, shit. Dog. And I'm like, oh, there's the shit. Because like, I'm 19 and I'm like, God damn it. So man, it was crazy, man. It was fun though.
Well, speaking of your mom, real quick, is that contest still going on?
It is. You wanna shoot me the information? Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat and everything.
Let me go to my
I'll add it to the video description also.
Yeah, because it's my pinned tweet right now.
Okay.
Here you go. Put it in private chat. There, that's the link. You've reminded me. I haven't done it yet today because my alarm went off and I was in the middle of it's so easy to do. I can do it while I'm still doing the show with y'all. So you literally just go to that link and you just put in your email, say I'm not a robot, and just vote. And that's pretty much it.
All done.
I'll just share it in the chat. So Winston, you want to talk about that real quick since we did just bring it up?
Of course. So my mother, she's a boss. She's a, don't tell her I said this, but she's a boss ass bitch. And specifically, she, first generation college graduate, got her MBA, was a VP of marketing and diversity for Frito-Lay for a few years, flipped that into starting her own business, her very successful business, for the last 30 plus years. And the business has been shrinking a little bit of her own volition because she was getting ready to call it, but not fully yet. And COVID completely just fucked everything up. So she works with the likes of Toyota, the NFL, HBO, all sorts of Fortune 500s, all sorts of stuff. And all of the business just completely evaporated because specifically she works with marketing and promotional, gear and stuff like that. Well, all those conventions stopped. All of those things stopped, right? And knowing your family as I do, Winston, I could see Zoe doing that shit clearly. Yeah, Jimmy is one of my patrons. Zoe came on to speak to us. She's a screenwriter. She came on to speak to us on writing in the industry and all that stuff. And Jimmy could probably tell from her personality. She very much is that person. But all of the work stopped because there were no more conventions. There were no more business meetings or company vacations or anything. So when you, let's say, some of you that are black have probably heard of the Tom Joyner cruise that he does every year. Like my mom, a lot of times would do all of the promotional items. So the backpacks, the hats, the water guns with the logo, all that stuff, that would be her. It went to straight zero. And it was getting pretty close to that she was going to have to shut down the business, not because she was ready to sell it or to move on, but just because there was $0 coming in. And so FedEx is running this program, this contest, to give small independent businesses a $50,000 grant. Whichever company gets the most votes from people trying to support it that they rock with, they can win. First place is $50K, second place is $25K, third place is $15K grants. And what she wants to do with it is not only to help level her business out, but she wants to make a whole Black Santa product line, a lot of which will actually she'll donate a lot of that money to domestic violence survivors and children that have kind of been displaced, because of either COVID or rough family situations or anything else like that. So not only would you be helping my mom save her business, but you would also be helping, a lot of these women and children in need that have been affected before COVID, but during it as well. So all it takes, go to that link that was posted in the chat. Type in your email. You can do it you can do it with as many emails as you have every 24 hours. So if you have 4 email addresses, you can do it 4 times every 24 hours. You just put in each individual thing and come back 24 hours later. And what I suggest, if you're willing to help, just put in an alarm and come back the same time every day. So then it's automatic. You don't even think about it. I did it while I was talking to y'all. It took me 30 seconds to do all 4. Yeah. Put it in. I'm not a robot. Submit, refresh, put in the new email. Not a robot. Submit, refresh. Takes no time. So if you could do that, that would mean the absolute world to my mom and my family.
Hell yeah, dude.
You got it.
The links in the chat, and a link will be in the description of this video as we lose Matt once again, as he looks real somber, real sad Matt right now. Nick, you had a question for Winston?
Oh, I was gonna ask. So, was theater the main goal, or was it to break out into this world of acting and film and TV?
Yeah, great question. Film and TV was always kind of the aim. I mean, I knew again from a young age that it was something I wanted to do. I was obsessed with the Power Rangers. Okay. I was obsessed with Fresh Prince. I was obsessed with all of these types of shows. And I was like, I want to do this for a living. And like, I was doing theater in elementary, in middle school, in high school, throughout, with that always being the main goal, but knowing that's the main way that a lot of people get their early on introduction. And I'm actually grateful that I came through theater roots, because it's easier to be big and be told to bring it down than the other way around. There's a lot of film actors that cannot do television, or there's a lot of film actors that can't do like even comedy sometimes because they can't get big enough. Theater actors, you can always have them turn it down. And so that part of me is very grateful about learning to project, learning to play to the entire auditorium, the entire theater. So even the person in the back row is feeling the emotions and feeling the energy. So yeah, it's something. It's probably why a lot of people are like, they joke about like, man, like Winston on the mic. Like, I don't know, for those of you that saw the pay-per-view for the Schmoedown on Friday, like Darrell, that whole shit.
I talked to Darrell. Don't worry about it. I talked to him.
I was in a cosplay as Darrell for this, but I was too late.
Oh my God, I forgot Matt came in. You came in and you talked to Darrell. I forgot about that shit, man. That was hilarious.
I was having issues keeping it together because I'm like, oh, this dude.
So was Paul. Paul was trying to keep, like, we talked about it afterwards, and like it actually worked out fine because most of my players, they don't need someone to Roxy pep talk them. They need somebody to just make sure that they're not in their own head. And that, like, the greatest managing accomplishment that I like to attribute that to is Ace against Demolanta. Yes. If you go back and look at that match, Ace missed, I want to say either he missed 2 and then Demolanta went perfect. So he was up 3 points because he got the bonus question. And I came in acting a straight fucking fool and dancing and singing and shit. And Demolanta got pissed. You can see the look on his face. But Ace just started laughing. And the game was completely different because Ace went from being in his head to just having fun like he normally does. And I know the difference. I talk to my players. Some of them are like, no, I need you to get in my ass. and some of them are like, I just need you to make sure that I don't get in my own ass. Like, just make sure that I'm here and present. I was like, okay, I can do that. So it works. It worked in my favor in that regard. Like, everybody needs something different.
Yeah, bro. I love how Christian. I was trying to ask you a question, and Christian had to come in after me because I'm just trying not to laugh.
I got a text from him later. He's like, you need to tell me next time you just gonna introduce somebody like Darrell. I was like, you get Bobby Gucci and Transylvania Gucci and all that shit. Like, it happens, bro.
I wasn't planning on debut on Thursday, and you just like.
I wasn't planning on it. It just happened.
If I remember correctly, you've done Darrell before. You've had a similar.
I had Black Dan Merle. I had, but I never gave him a name.
Okay.
It was literally. The joke was, and which is why I did it again this time, is that the only person that I know that very handedly like took care of Bibiani was Dan Merle. And so my thought process was, if we're going to play Bibiani, we need to put up against somebody that he's scared of. And I was like, why not call in the GOAT? And so that's what that was. Cosplay as Black Dan Merle and call it a fucking day.
And how the whole Schmodown stuff come about? Like, I know, like, we can talk about like the game and stuff, like all that crazy shit. But how did you actually get involved with that? Because now with the whole COVID stuff, you're as like I mean, you would know more than me, but you'd have to do your own promos at your house, at your apartment, or in your car, on the road, wherever you're doing. So
walking, as we've seen,
or if you're John Humphrey, you're roller skating. So like it depends on like how it depends on where you're at, what you're doing. But how'd you get into the Schmodown exactly, and how'd you get involved competitively? But now as a manager, how are you using all this acting you've been doing for God knows how long, and doing that like Darrell, right? Like that's you just being big and acting up.
Well, before we do that, we're reaching obviously a local Cleveland audience. What is the Schmodown for the people who don't know? Because obviously Spin from the Real isn't going to be shared to those people. I try and reach all these groups on Facebook and stuff like that. Hell, I'm probably in Facebook jail right now because of it. That said, what is the Schmodown for people who might not know, even if it's just a short elevator pitch?
That's a great question. So the Schmodown is movie trivia meets wrestling is the easiest way to describe it. It's the personalities you see in the WWE, the AEW, WCW back in the day. It's those personalities, those storylines, all that kind of stuff met with like obviously, and you got to be careful about how you say it. Like, that's why Soulja Boy's 2 seconds from getting his ass whooped. Wrestling is real, but staged, if that makes sense. So all of the moves, all of the acrobatics, all of the strength, that's all real. It's just they have decided ahead of time who is going to win whatever said match. So they're just putting on a show until they get to that element. That doesn't happen with the Schmodown. This is legitimate. Who knows the most setup? So you're combining those two worlds together. I got involved. A friend of mine, Cheyenne Iwalu, she is also another actor, internet personality, all that kind of stuff, was like, yo, you should check out this thing, the Schmodown. I'm going to go. Because in LA at the time, just because they wanted a live studio audience, you could just show up. If you knew where it was, you could just show up. They gave out free pizza and you could just watch the Schmodown. You could just be in the audience. And she was like, you should. She was like, not anymore. It's changed now, but that's what it used to be. And so she was like, you should come with if you want. Like, if I'm going to try and get on the show myself. They're always looking to try and get more people of color in there because it's very white. But they have a very large fan base. So like, if you can get in with that, like it can only further help build career out. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll go. The match I happen to go to, I talk about it all the time. I don't remember all of the matchups. The one that sticks out in my head, though, was Lon Harris versus Cody. Cody Hall.
God. Yeah.
Oh, I fucking died because Lon comes out as the professor. He walks through the fucking crowd and shit, handing out syllabi and like clowning Cody the whole fucking time. I was like, what is this? This is absurd. And like, I was playing along and I like actually did pretty decent. Like I was like, like my round one, it's 8 questions. I got like, I want to say 5 of 8. Both round twos, I hit about 70-ish%. Couldn't hit either. I don't think we hit 2 5-pointers, but the one that went up, I didn't get. But like I did pretty decently. But I told him, and at the time, IG hadn't stepped up to what I would argue IG has taken a slight step back this season. As far as crazy difficulty. just from an observer, as far as what we were prepping Chandru to do and what's happening now, it's just it is still difficult. Let's not take away from what it is. And you went from 200 movies to 300 movies, then having to be detailed with them. So let's not pretend like it's not still tricky. But as far as like how deep it goes, it was about the same level as it is now when I wanted to do it. But Christian thought I said I wanted to do teams. He's like, yeah, I would love to have you. Like, I talked to him and Mark. They both are like separately, but they were both like, yeah, we'd love to have you here. Like, whatever. And then they were like, yeah, you need a partner. And I was like, fuck. So I literally was like, who do I know that knows more than anybody else about movies? Zip. He would love to do this, right? Probably does improv. He really knows movies. We used to stay up late and smoke and just talk about movies or comic books. Maybe he'll do it. He was like, sure, I'm down. And then the rest is history, you know, just kind of from there. So.
And now how do you go, like, because you're out here and you play both like the babyface good guy and the heelish bad guy, or at least you play in between depending on who you're rocking, who you're managing, and who you're going about. So now with all the COVID stuff going around, you have to shoot your own promos, you have to send them in. Like, how is that whole process exactly? Especially when you're putting on a character like Darrell, or you are managing someone who's a bad guy like Chandru, you know, like how, like what's your approach or stuff like that, or do you just wing it like off the cuff?
Just wing it, honestly. I occasionally you'll get a little bit of direction, and then you got it. Like, so for example, the promo at the very start of the year where I talked to Laura, and I'm like, hey, welcome to Swag, let's do it, blah blah blah. Like, me deciding to rickroll everybody, that was just off the cuff out of nowhere. I was like, it'd be funny to rickroll people, but then I also thought about the lyrics, which were actually super on point for trying to convince Laura. So the idea of like, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, like, that's kind of perfect for someone that's like, I want nothing to do with you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Which is still the case. Every day is a goddamn struggle with that woman. She don't want nothing to do with my ass. But that's it. The same thing with the promo that, for those that didn't see it, for before Eric's match, you know, I was singing Me, Myself, and I, and that just like, you know, it just kind of came from the place that like Chandru and Laura, you know, both getting in my face in the matches I had with them and assuming that Eric was going to be an ass to me. And then he decided to, you know, make amends. Like,
that's
literally. It shocked me too. And so literally it was just right before the match started, or right before that we started shooting the scene, I was just like, well, I did a song last time. What song fits here? And I was like, Me, Myself, and I. That's all I got in the end. Like, it's very yes and very just improv, just fucking around, man.
And is that a hard balancing act? Like, doing all your stuff you're doing now. You just say you had a self tape to do, but right before this, and you got all those responsibilities for them, because depending on who you got playing, who you got going on, like, they may play a few times a week. And obviously, these are shot ahead of time, at least for the most part. But is that a hard balancing act for you, doing all these jobs? I mean, you said you were no stranger to doing them, multiple things at once. But like, the spontaneity of the Schmodown could be, you know, it can be stressful.
It can be rough. It can be rough. It's why I had to take a hiatus from SCN. Why I had to take a hiatus from Game Time. I was working as a casting associate for America's Most Wanted, which everybody please go watch it, because if it gets high numbers and it's doing well, they're going to order more episodes. They order more episodes. I've got more work. Yeah, I get back to work. It was one of those situations where that became insanely difficult. I couldn't find myself really fully doing both the way I needed or wanted to. And that just became a moment of communicating with Christian of the Schmodown of what my availability was, and even preemptively kind of setting up, if push came to shove, having somebody else step in to manage a match or two. But we always were fortunately able to schedule it at a time where it was like, I would talk to work and I'd be like, look, I need an unadulterated hour and a half of just leave me alone so we can tape this match. And for the most part, that worked. It worked for a little bit too doing SCN, but like, I for those that watch SCN, you would see episodes where all of a sudden I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And I would just cut the camera and disappear for a while and come back. And like, it all catches up with you. So it just depends.
I took a hiatus from SCN when you took a hiatus.
Fair. It happens, man. And look, I appreciate the support, like, but it happens. Like, we all turn into certain things for certain brands or shows or whatever for certain things. For me, Community never really was the same once Donald Glover left.
Right.
I tried super hard because I loved that show, and he wasn't everything, but him and Abed as a joint collective were such a unit and the heart and soul of that show. When it was just Abed at that point, it just didn't work.
That was me with Glee when Corey Monteith died. I forced myself because I was a show choir kid. Nick and I both were in show choir together.
Right.
And Glee
that checks out.
and Glee was something that I related to on so many levels, depending on the week.
Fair.
So you're sitting there watching. It's like I loved the Finn character, and I forced myself every year after he died to slog through the crap fest that it had become.
I didn't realize he died while the show was still on air. I thought he died after it was off.
He died towards the end of season 4 or 5.
Okay.
Oh no, he checked into rehab, and then he died in the summer before that season started.
I think
Damn.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. The show was never the same afterwards. But we've talked about Schmodown. There is one thing we also got to talk about when it comes to you, and I think this is the perfect way to transition into it.
Both of y'all never seen that, have you? Y'all look so confused.
I've seen it. That showed it to me.
Was that T-Pain? Why did it look like T-Pain, bro? Like
that is one of the go-to clips on Blurs in the Hood. Normally, I would put a background behind it, but I'm like, I know Winston. I know Winston.
That's
just gonna sit there
and just do the whole thing. It was a
cat
random
funeral. That is a cat funeral.
That is a cat funeral. So can you go back and go back and unmute me, and I'll talk you through what's happening. All right, so
I was about to say, hold on. It says you have to unmute yourself. So let me play this one more time, and then we'll do it.
All right, so look at the dude. He's sitting on a cooler. That poor cooler. There's the Impala in the back. There's the throne chairs, like it was in a church. You know what I'm saying? The pickup truck. There's a lawnmower right there. You know what I'm saying? The ghetto hookup. The cat in the shoebox. Someone brought a Hearst over there that looks like it might be a Chrysler, the 300. Like, and this nigga in the red blazer just losing it, bro. That poor cooler just getting fucked up.
Nick's like, I've played that for Nick a few times. He's like, I don't understand your obsession with that. I'm like, look, if you watched Blurs, you would.
It just makes sense. It just we Jay randomly, because we were starting to introduce memes. Well, once we could figure out in StreamYard we could just throw memes in the motherfucker. We were like, all right. And so some of our early ones were like that white Baptist passions, like COVID-19. I blow the wind of God on you. Like, just stupid shit.
You inspired me. You want to see how?
That's terrible.
Boo this man! I disagree.
It was the worst thing to happen to our channel.
He stole it from our wrestling show too. So
I gave the reason that idea from the wrestling show was born was because of Blurs, because I'm the one who put that stuff in there. I'm the one who came up with that idea. Don't say Wrestle Real did. I'm like I'm stealing this from Blurs, because now that I know I can do this, let me just get this working.
And that's the big thing, is we started just fucking around and doing it, man. And that one was one that people were like, especially once people started pointing out all the things in the video, they're like, this is hilarious. And so it became one of those things that people wanted at every show. And we made it, once we hit 100 likes on the video, we would just play the video at this point. That's the only time that we play it, unless there's something that perfectly aligns with it. Mm-hmm. And it's just become a staple. So now people are mad confused. So like on SEN, you'll get a random
Meow.
Yeah.
Schmobot.
Someone will just put a Schmo that just says meow, ow, 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 ow. Oh Lord Jesus, meow, ow, ow. And like Christian's like, what the fuck is going on?
And
I was
Winston's
like,
over here just cracking the fuck up,
I'm just
trying
fucking
to.
dying. Just fucking dying because like I know exactly what's going on.
And I mean, to mention Birds, since we mentioned Birds in the Hood, your friendship with Jay Washington
That's exactly what I'm going
is
into.
something that is beyond. Like, I mean, all of us in this the Shmonon space. Like, I know Matt and I are Shmonon adjacent at this point, but like you and Winston have really grown outside of that. And
Him and Winston?
or no,
Me and
you and
Jay?
Jay. That's what I meant. You and Jay have
Not
grown
all black
outside
people
of that.
look alike, Chris.
Right. I'm sorry. People
One of
get
them
mad and I
is
confused
bald,
all the time.
Chris.
Yo, I got called. I made a joke about another person on another channel, and I'm guaranteed I am convinced.
Yo, Chris,
that
if it makes you
thought I was
feel any
that
better,
person.
somebody thought we were brothers, so take that as you will.
Right. So besides that, like when did you meet Jay Washington? For those who don't know, Jay Washington's another like he's another folk like in the Shmonon space that like we're just like he's just an incredible comic and
Trying to get him on
actor.
here. I'm a Winston.
Exactly.
Yeah, help me with that because I want to get him on here.
I'll talk
So
to him. He'll do it.
how'd you meet Jay and like do y'all just talk to each other about like not only all the positive stuff y'all got going on, but like, the hardships of being an actor, trying to be an actor in this space? Because having someone that is going through the same like stuff as you, especially Jay, like y'all are doing the same things. What's up, HG in the chat? Like it must be like almost therapeutic at points, especially another black man in this space.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Jay at this point is he's out of the Schmodown. He's been pretty vocal about how he's moved on, which is sad. I know a lot of people really liked him in that space, but honestly, a lot of stuff came up for him and it happens. But I met him the same day that I went to my first Schmodown match. I just saw another black face and I was like, oh, what's up, brother? How you doing? And he looked at me and said, hi, nigga. What you mean, hi? And like just walked off. I was like, did he just conspiracy brother me from Undercover Brother? He's like, hi. Like, I was like, all right, I guess, whatever. The next time I saw him, Collider had moved spaces
To the bigger one.
to their bigger studio, and Jay had just had that brush with death, so he had just had the throat surgery and all that kind of stuff. And he was more willing to talk to me at that point. And then from that point forward, like I just got to know him when I would go to tapings. And I had randomly mentioned like, oh, they should do more black films. And he was like, yeah, good luck with that. I was like, oh, I'm going to like pitch a black, a black film like exhibition match and see what happens. And Jay says he can't. He says he's out of the MTS as much as he wants, and people on Facebook and Reddit will still think he's
Yeah. Everyone thought you were getting replaced in the beginning because they knew what work you were doing.
It may still happen. You never know. You honestly never know. I mean, watch the show and see what happens, man.
If it's wrestling adjacent, like in wrestling, you never say never. So like
anything can happen.
Exactly.
Anything can happen. You never know. So watch the show and you'll find out what's going on. And either way, we kind of talked about it, and then he was like, yeah, I'm down. And then we booked it and it happened. And it kind of grew from there because that was around the same time I started doing a few episodes here and there of his Mad Titan podcast. And then I started doing some of the reviews with him, and I would go over there to his crib. And, because he had that press access, we would watch shows a little early. So Titans or Doom Patrol or whatever. And then we would just do the reviews on them. And then we were like, well, what if we like did a show? And Jay was more inclined to do a sports show, and I was more inclined to do kind of similar to like a Pardon the Interruption, but with just about general nerd news and shit that we were doing. And so we started off with Blurred and Gold, which we did for a while, which worked out decently well, but we ended up doing a couple of Collider sports times with Roca, and then eventually when Roca left Collider and he started Game Time, we've been on that. And then my idea of Blurred's, which Jay was like, we were just like, we need to put something together. And at first we were doing them as pre-taped. And one time we just tried to do it live and people were actually kind of rocking with it. So then we just kept doing it live. And then we went from, 1 day to 2 days, and it's just grown from there, man. It has grown exponentially.
I wish Blurs was all week long personally, but that's just me.
It's a timing thing, man. I wish we could too, but I think
Besides the time you made my ass watch Fox News. Inauguration day.
There was inauguration day. Well, because it was fucking funny, bro. They were so sad, but they knew this is the one thing they had to report on. You can't not report on the inauguration, no matter how badly you hate Joe Biden. Like, you had to do it. Like, they did it in reverse when Trump won. CNN and MSNBC were like, well, I guess this nigga president. Like, it happens, bro. Like, you gotta watch it. So.
And you talked about Jay, like, and Jay's like, oh, like, good luck trying to get black cinema into the Schmodown. But like, I might as well talk about this now. Like, what's it been like for you as a black actor in this space? Like, I know like people have horror stories and stuff, and hopefully you don't have anything that's like traumatized or anything. But how is it for you being a black actor and trying to break out and break in, trying to get your foot in the door on these bigger shows?
It's, you know, we've all had any oppressed group. I guarantee you that you've had a moment that was like, what the fuck? So like, I've straight up been told, can you make that blacker for us? Like, can you know, like, and I'm like, the fuck does that even mean? Like, I know what they mean. Mm-hmm. Like, and they should just
unfortunately, you know what that means. Yeah.
But like, I've gotten like, can you black that up for us? Can you make it blacker? Blah, blah, blah. So shit happens. And like, I've even seen stuff which also kind of sucks, where you've had situations where you book something and then someone will go, well, actually, so-and-so wants to put his cousin in there. So-and-so wants to put his friend in there. So we're replacing you with him and stuff like that. I've experienced all levels of success and disappointment. I've also, ironically, I would say I've had an equal amount of like white folks doing shit to fuck me over in this industry as like black folks. But I think the black folk stuff hurts more because it's the whole idea, that phrase, not all skin folk is kinfolk. There was a particular company that I was working for that to this day, they still owe me a few $1,000s of like work done that they never paid me, because they told us one thing and we signed these contracts and we've attempted to try and get the money that way, and it hasn't come through, but they were lying about what was going on. They made it seem like the show was a done deal. It was technically a spec show. So they ultimately got a little bit of money to do whatever, but they ultimately did not end up paying us, and then just stopped answering phone calls and text messages and emails. So like, I'm due probably around $2,500, $3,000 from this company for work done that I'll never see at this point. And I've already made it a pretty big, so like, because at this point, after everything that happened last year and whatnot, I'm very aware of it's a matter of when, not if. And so I've already made it very clear in my mind that when they want to come and interview me, I'll be saying no. I'll be like, I'll talk to every other outlet, and like, not even like I won't talk to black outlets. I won't talk to that outlet, because fuck that. If that's really how you're going to play the game, then I don't need to acknowledge you when it's time, when you need something out of me. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I've seen it across the board. Everybody's a little shady in this business, to be honest with you.
Like, it's not even just a skin color thing. It's just like a morality thing. Like, it's
such
so competitive.
That's part of it. It's so competitive, and there's so much skin in the game, and there's so much money to be had, and all that kind of stuff. Most people are just looking out for themselves. There's more nepotism, I would say, in this than most other industries. Which is why you will see a lot of people, even the people you fucks with, that'll look back. Like, I mean, the truth is, trying to find a final person for the panel, I immediately thought of Matt, because I was like, I know Matt does good work. I've established a relationship with him. Let me reach back and see if I can help lift another brother up. It is what it is. I think why they've now enforced, say, these rules for the Oscars is because they're like, it's not saying that the work you haven't done in the past isn't like good work, but the fact that we're not seeing stuff outside of this particular whatever being acknowledged or whatever, and these are people that are equally as good or better at what they do, this is going to force people to expand their horizons a little bit. It's not saying a straight white man can't thrive and win Oscars and put out their dream. It's just saying that, like, if there's a black woman who is equally as good of a DP that just needs her shot, give her that fucking shot. You can still tell your story about the white dude from Boston. Who the fuck cares? You know what I'm saying? Or like, you've told the story from the white dude from Boston. Why don't you try telling a story about a black girl from Louisiana? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's mixing it up a little bit. And I think that's the one thing that people were freaking out about the Oscars. It's not going to say that white dudes are out. It just means that we need to hear everybody and make sure everybody is having this opportunity. That's it.
I feel that. Well, Winston, I know you do have the World Girls Marathon to go to, so I don't want to force you to stay longer than you have to do. But we normally in this new format cover 3 to 5 pieces of movie news. We got 3 quick pieces. You're more than welcome to stay if you want. If not,
we do real fast.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the trailers.
Fast news, so that's my favorite part.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the new trailers, but those are in the Heights trailers. I know Chris is excited to talk about those.
I haven't seen it yet.
They dropped last Sunday. Chris, buddy, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I know we just got them talking about representation, right? Like it's like it comes so far and few in between. Like, and now recently, in the last few years, we've seen a lot of it. And like even with with black stories that are black or about black people, like they almost like it's the same kind of like dreadful or like there's a similar theme throughout all these bigger movies, right? Like there's always like when's the last time you saw a movie about a black man being happy? You know, like that's the thing. So in this case, partially being Latino, like I love what In the Heights is bringing. Like, and I recently just listened to the musical, and like, yeah, it's Dominican. I'm not Dominican, but damn, like this is just coming from a mind who is Puerto Rican about a Dominican Republic man from Dominican Republic, and this is just an exploration of like Washington Heights in New York, and them being people of color, and the fact that it's coming on screen by an Asian man. John M. Chu's directing this thing, and it looks fantastic. The trailers were incredible. I love seeing them, both of them. Matt told me there were 2. I'm like, why are there 2?
So, and I respect John. I respect what they did for that, because they're like, look, you were supposed to get this movie a year ago. We're giving you 2 different trailers. And Winston, the first one brought a tear to my eye. No cap. Like I told Chris, I'm like, I literally cried.
Wow. And then I pulled over and watched the trailer.
Yeah. Anthony Ramos. I said this when I saw the first trailer. I'm like, Anthony Ramos is my Academy Award favorite for Best Actor. I loved him in Hamilton. Okay. He plays Philip Hamilton, and what's the first character's name? Chris.
Oh, it's oh my god.
John Lawrence. I'm John Lawrence.
John Lawrence.
Place to be too.
That.
Yep.
That's what it is.
John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton, and so he has this past relationship with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he's Hispanic himself, and I love seeing. You know him from the latest of Star Is Born. He played Lady Gaga's best friend.
Okay, I haven't seen A Star Is Born.
Well,
Personal choice.
And on top
nothing wrong with the movie. I just wasn't interested.
Hey,
and on top of that, like
I quote you when I say it, when people are like, why don't you like Little Woman? I'm like, I can admit it's a good movie, but it's not my.
No, a movie not being for you, totally. It's a feasible like explanation to not watch.
Look, some people have tried to come for me for this, but like this is a very valid point that I made. Little Women, that was the 7th iteration of it. Mm-hmm. So on top of my feeling about not having an original IP, you've had so many good versions of it. I will not knock what Greta Gerwig did. She did a phenomenal job with it. But I've heard the story of these same 4 white women doing this a million times before. Why couldn't you mix
it realistically?
Exactly. So why couldn't you do this with the situation where it's like, fine, have the Little Women before Latino women, have it before Black women, have it before Asian women, and just get a different telling of it, and not just that I mess with like the way that it flows temporally. You know what I'm saying? That would have been something that I'm like, now I'm curious. It's kind of why, because like to that point, they're like, so you just don't want to hear white women's stories? Like, no, because Booksmart was one of my favorite films that year. By far. It was something brand new that we hadn't seen like that. And so like I completely dove in and was standing for that movie left and fucking right, and was upset that it didn't get more accreditation than it deserves. Now, again, Greta directed the fuck out of that movie. It was a good movie, but I just was bored to tears because it's like, I've heard the story before. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, the performances are good. Yes, the direction is good, but I just don't care. That's where my mind was at that point. It's like, I don't care. And I can openly admit that. So say what you want. I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I just didn't personally care.
Right. And that's where I am. Jen, my girlfriend, she loved it. I'm like, good for you. It's in our Vudu right now because she bought the disc and she's like, put it in the Vudu. I said, okay.
I mean, I love it too. I think it's great. But like in regards to In the Heights, like In the Heights obviously came from the Broadway production, and Anthony Ramos was actually a part of the Broadway production.
Yes, he was.
So like the fact that
he played that younger character.
Usnavi. No, he played Usnavi. Like at one point in the thing. Yeah. So he's no stranger to this character. And like I I love what these trailers brought, man. Like this movie should have come out a year ago. We should be talking about it now. If the world was right, like we would have seen this, we'd all be loving it. We'd all be crying about it, loving it, and doing all this shit. But the 2 trailers they dropped were just, it was a lot of new footage. Lin-Manuel Miranda is in this, which I didn't know until watching
That's
these.
cool.
Yeah. So, and I know there's Christopher Jackson, who is also part of the original company.
Hamilton
He's
cast.
also in this as well. So, and wait, what?
I said it was part of the original Hamilton cast.
And he's part of the original company for In the Heights. So like they're
takes care
showing
of
love
people.
to the original, and they're showing this to a whole new audience. I didn't get to see this on Broadway. Like I don't. How old was I? 10 when this was on Broadway. Like I wasn't going to see this. Like, plus this little
Right.
like this little boy from Northwest Indiana. He ain't going to go to New York and watch In the Heights. What the hell? But now as a 23-year-old dude, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this shit. Like, and it looks awesome. The trailers look spectacular.
Yeah.
Nick, did you get a chance to watch those? Because I know I sent them to you like half an hour before showtime.
Yes, and we've spent a lot of time on this. So what I will say is it's fantastic. Loved it. I'm really excited. I love Anthony Ramos, and I cannot wait to see these films.
He's the next guy in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's the next guy.
He is the next guy.
He's the next guy.
Okay.
What
Okay.
superhero will he play that?
I know, Winston. This is right around your age group. Ace Ventura 3.
Bitch, what?
Oh,
You didn't see the reports the other day that they were putting Ace Ventura 3 into development with the writers from Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, I did not see that. I don't know how I feel about that, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm not anti it, but I'm not necessarily for it. Just because, like, I don't know if we need, like, how many things have we now decided to tread back to?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That I don't know if that's
Beverly Hills Cop apparently is still on the table. I get your point.
yeah, like we just don't. There's certain things we don't need, and if it's good, awesome, great, I'm all about it. But like I think about like Coming to America, for example, it was nice to revisit the world.
Mm-hmm.
We're decades too late for this, and it just didn't. And they overshot this. It was too much. God, there was another big movie that did that recently that I can't remember.
Like Dumb and Dumber 2, another Jim Carrey vehicle that had a sequel
Zoolander
decades
2.
later.
Zoolander 2, Rush Hour 3. Those are ones that jump into my. Rush Hour is my I'd say joke all the time. Rush Hour is my all-time favorite movie. I consider 1 and 2 one film, especially because they were not that far apart from each other.
Right. And clearly, because he has
was-
Jackie Chan saying Nick and Blurs in the Hood.
That was all Jay. Jay cut that one together, but it was. What I want to say 2 to 3 was like almost 7 years.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work in my opinion. I really don't like that movie. I don't talk about it because so I hope this is good, but I can't imagine it will be. I want more Jim Carrey. I don't need to see a third Ace Ventura at this point.
I think the reason I'm okay with it is because I saw what Jim Carrey could do with these 2 writers' material with the Sonic film, which he was by and away the best part about, I should say. And I'm like, if it's going to be that kind of material, I'm down. If not, we'll see.
I just don't think that these movies work for the same reason that Winston is saying. All these comedy sequels end up coming out way later than they should. And I enjoyed like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, but
it wasn't good.
But isn't that great? Not necessarily. But I could say that that's pretty much the only movie that I could say that I go back and watch again of those like way too late for their liking type of sequels.
I mean, Clerks was the same way. Clerks 2.
And I don't like Clerks 2 as much as I am the biggest fan of all time of Clerks 1. But like, I don't know. I hear this and I go, nope, already.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're being frank, does Ace Ventura even age well? At least in regards to what we got going on now.
No, it does not.
No, it doesn't.
It does not. Like if you go and look at the fact that the main detective was like tucking, like his like was. I don't even see. That's the thing. I don't even know which pronoun to use in that particular case
for them. Let's just say them.
Like that for them, like they were tucking their genitalia at the time, and there was all these jokes about that and like the homophobia and transphobia in there. Like, you know, I get it was comedy. I get if it was a different time, but like, you know what I'm saying? The second one probably does age a little better. But there are a bunch.
Yeah. Like if we have to even talk about this or even think about it, like I know there are a lot of movies in the 80s or comedies that use the F word or like the slur for folks who are gay. Like and it's not like it does not age well at all. And Ace Ventura, I think, doesn't age well. So you'd be changing the character now to adapt to your audience in 2021 and now. But do we need this? No. Do we need any of the movies you just mentioned? No, we don't. It's going back to the well for those ideas, especially for Jim Carrey.
Yeah, the only one that has worked is Borat. Borat actually worked for me. I was concerned it wouldn't, but Borat actually worked. I
never saw the first one, and I reviewed the second
one.
Borat
adapted to its time too. Like,
right. And so I just you should see the first one. It's pretty funny. It's one of those things that like I think the other thing we need to do is we need to look at society. Can a gay character be played by a straight man? Yes.
It depends on who you ask. Like that, I know it's a hot topic of late.
I would argue yes. Look at Modern Family. Look at Modern Family. The fact that Eric Stonestreet, straight man married to the wife, was playing a gay character with a husband. But the bigger thing above all else is more specifically, it's not about. This wasn't a conversation about that. This is more of a situation like if you're talking about that. Why people get upset about that is the representation. There's already not necessarily a lot of jobs for, say, trans actors or actresses to have, and then you're going to not let them have that opportunity and give it to somebody else. That's where that problem is. There's not a lot of necessarily like gay characters to necessarily play, and you're just going to give it to a straight. Like that's where that comes into play. But that's a different conversation. That's not even what we're talking about. I'm talking about the jokes they made and how they made them were just at the time. We're fine. They're inappropriate now. And if you could look at it through the lens of like, that was what it was in 93 and whatever, cool. But like, you can't make those same jokes now. That's what I'm saying. Didn't just have to adapt because of how the culture shifted. It adapted to its own radical production shift due to COVID. I agree. That movie is a goddamn miracle that it works, let alone works well. I agree with that.
Right.
1000%.
Yeah. And
like movies like these, they don't work. Ace Ventura 3, if it would probably go to a streamer like Coming to America. It's probably where it worked the best. Because I mean, when Jim Carrey did it with Dumb and Dumber 2, it wasn't even successful.
You also got to remember, Coming to America only went to a streamer primarily because Paramount isn't a company that could hold on to it throughout COVID.
Touche. But even though even then it came out on a streamer, and I think a movie like this, if it were to come out, a streamer would be the best place to put it. If it comes out, this is just a hypothetical. This movie might not even get made.
Yeah. And then last piece.
Go ahead. Real quick. I'm not going to get in an argument with somebody in the chat. But
I'm ignoring them too. Don't worry about it.
I was just going to say from the standpoint of like, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with anything that making a joke that could potentially be offensive, but it better be a smart fucking joke, and you better be on top of it. To be offensive for offensive sakes, miss me with that bullshit. So if you're gonna make a joke about something like that, it better be a smart fucking joke. That's why Borat worked. Borat still made those jokes, but they were smart jokes that called shit out. That's the difference. That's why a lot of stand-up comedians that want to bitch about we're in this PC culture. No, you just need to be smarter about how you do it. That's it. You need to be more intelligent and stop going for the lazy layups. That's it.
Facts.
Yeah. And then last bit of news. Our Man apparently is getting a movie.
Who nigga?
The first time I ever heard about this character was watching Stargirl, so that tells me all I need to know about him.
It's DC continuing their trend of biting off more than they can chew.
That's right. If Taylor was here, he'd be like, "I'll believe it when I see it."
Right, and I'll be the one to say it
because we got the host of the IG show.
Right? No, I know.
Say what you want. I don't even know. I have no idea who the fuck Our Man is. I've never heard of Our Man.
You have HBO Max, right?
Yeah.
Watch Stargirl.
So all right. All right. I'll check it out.
So even though that show shouldn't work, it does. I even got Nick to watch a few episodes. And he's like, "Yeah,
I like it." Yeah.
It's a very nice coming of age story, but also in the lens of superhero.
If I'm not mistaken, Our Man, he comes from the Justice Society of America.
Yes,
and his powers is he has this necklace that only works for his bloodline, and when he turns it, he has like super strength and for like an hour,
stamina,
basically.
durability. Yeah, he's able to. Yeah,
because we've covered movies like this on the show multiple times where it's DC's doing like it's like Plastic Man, but it's a girl, and they're doing all these different interpretations of these characters that may or may not be known by the general public. But like again, this is another case of they're biting off more than they can chew. Can we get a Man of Steel 2 before we do any of this shit?
No, miss me with that. I'm getting Calvin Ellis. Fuck that shit.
Well, I mean, we can't have more than one Superman. Like we have two Spider-Man going on right now. Like one's black, one's white. We can have both.
But one is animated and one is live action. There's
for now.
I was gonna say, give that time, buddy.
But like this is like we can have multiple iterations, especially if they're different characters. Miles and Peter are definitely not the same character. And like if we're like Calvin Harris and Kal-El, they're two different characters. Although they may share the same moniker, to me they're different. But at the same time, DC they're biting off more than they can chew, getting these different characters, different movies. That Black Superman movie may not happen. It may not. But who knows?
With J.J. Abrams basically being the new head of Warner Brothers and in the creativity department, it's probably going to happen because they just signed him to that gigantic deal. And if he doesn't get anything he wants out of it, there's going to be hell to pay.
And we'll see. And I'll be the first person in line when this movie comes out. But them
I'm muting that
being rumored.
He's just going on and on and on, and I'm listening, but I'm trying really hard not to snap on a nigga. So yeah, go ahead,
please do.
No. I have too much. I have too much good juju in the world right now. The minute the nigga took, like, he was going on and on about that, and I was letting it go, and then he was like, "And Black Superman is dumb." I was like, "You can see your bitch ass out." I don't.
Yeah, to go back to our man. It's DC flex on everybody because they're in. And although it's Zack Snyder's Justice League, Warner Brothers is like, they're getting like, oh yeah, we want more of these characters, and Warner Brothers is going to collect the money off of this. They're going to feed off of this hype and get cocky, and they're going to make movies like Our Man. Who gives a shit about Our Man? And I know there are people that do, but for the general public, like shit, he's a secondary player on Stargirl on the CW. Like this doesn't make any sense. Stargirl isn't even mainstream like that. And you're a second player to Stargirl? And now you're out here trying to make that character a movie? Like in a different interpretation at that? Like that's not what I'm rocking with.
People have made the same moment about JJ with Lost. Like in a lot of his products, he is so good at the start. His ideas are grand. He knows how to set all that up. He just doesn't always know how to finish it out. And people might make the argument, well, look what Rian Johnson did. I know a lot of people don't feel the same way. I like The Last Jedi.
I do too.
I think it could have been an interesting take to genuinely be like Rey comes from a nothing time, like a nothing bloodline, and see what that means. Because for me, what that meant, where I interpreted that. Think about the Jedi we have talked about, all of the Star Wars. Like, it's been a Skywalker or a Kenobi or a Palpatine. It's been just those families. So the idea of a complete random stranger could just be so powerful and come out of nowhere. It's the acknowledgement that we all could potentially have something special in us. I liked that idea. So to kind of retcon that, I get that Disney felt like they were in a tough situation. I get that JJ felt that they were in a tough situation. I hated that got taken away personally, but that's me.
And that's the show. Make note, I'm not the one who brought up Star Wars. It's a landmark moment.
It is, really. Matt usually is the one who brings up Star Wars, and I'm very glad that it was you.
We gotta etch this in stone so we don't forget.
Right. Well, hey, that's what playbacks on YouTube are for.
But Winston, even though you've talked about all you can do, all the things you can find, all the things people can find you on, tell us again before we get out.
Of course, you see it right there below me at the Swaggy Blurred. That is my handle throughout the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, YouTube, all that good stuff. Stereo. Please check us out. Check me out on Stereo. Mondays, Game Time with John Roca, Jay Washington, and I believe JTE's become a permanent fixture on it because I had taken some time off and he took over for me for a bit. Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, Blurds in the Hood with me and Mr. Jay Washington. You can look that up. BLRDS, the letter NTHEHOOD. this Tuesday, I actually have to go and get my second vaccine dose. So we will be doing it in prime time. It'll be at 5 p.m. Pacific this Tuesday, just so you know. But normally it is 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Wait,
but
shit, no.
Just this Tuesday. You're good. You're
I
good.
know. I got excited because I'm like, yeah, I can listen to it. And then I remembered we're doing our Justice League spoiler talk on Tuesday at that time.
There you go. And then the Inner Geekdom, SCN Live. I'm on there typically anywhere from 1 to 3 days a week. So just keep an eye out. You'll kind of know about that. But then the Inner Geekdom show Fridays, 9 a.m. Pacific. We talk about just BJT on PJCN Mario Party Madness.
PJ Campbell Network.
Yeah,
nice.
Good stuff, Jeff Show.
Nice. We mainly talk about we do spoiler reviews on whatever the big show is at the time. We did a massive takeover. Again, Matt was a part of that. Did episode 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and then the Zack Snyder Justice League. So obviously this Friday we'll be back on episode 2 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So come and join us, man. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff there. Hopefully, because I know it's kicked a lot of people's asses. So hopefully it doesn't.
I was worried about that, and it's something that Jay and I have already talked about. If I'm not really well enough to do the show, like because I'm getting it at 2, I haven't heard of many people's side effects kicking in that fast, but they do kick in within anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. So if side effects happen and I can't do the show, we'll let them know. But otherwise I should be around. So, and that's everything. Yeah.
No, man, like what Matt said at the jump, like you're one of the busiest peeps that because you got so much going on top of your real life and and everything you got going on. Thank you so much for coming on the program, talking about your career.
Of course.
I mean, I was going to ask for any advice, but I feel like you gave some good chunks of advice throughout the interview.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Winston, for coming on.
I'm around. You have my contact info. So if you know your little brother too.
I'm ready for I'm ready for IG show part 2. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, man. All right. Well, I'll hit you up, bro. I'll hit you up.
Thank you so much. I know that a lot of the acting advice will be taken to heart by a lot of people when it comes down to it. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Last little bit of advice, I would say more so than anything. We all have our issues with Kanye, but one of the biggest lines that he said in the Power remix, if you don't remember this, is like, now we all ain't gonna be American Idols, but that doesn't mean you can't grab a camera, shoot a viral. There's no reason that you can't right now on your own, but with the cell phones we have, with the computer, the cameras we use for streaming and everything else, that you can't create that next big viral video, that short film, that feature. That there's no way that you can't do that on your. You 1,000% can. So if you're really serious about getting into this, don't just wait for someone to discover you on that. Be creating and making your own content while you're also hustling on the professional level of stuff, because it's only going to help you going forward.
Word, retweet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And with that,